Marc Daniel Nelson here with SSL. Today I'm mixing a track with the new stunning 4KB, the UC1, UF8, the 360, and the rest of the bundle. Let's listen.
This isn't the way I thought my life would have turned out. You're not the one that I thought I would care about. Color, the white noise, window voice, lover. It's your sound, it's your
So I have here a track that was recorded about 10 years ago in Chicago by the band Urbanites. Now these guys are really great guys, good friends of mine, and they wanted to do something special for this EP at the time. So they decided to go to Steve Albini's Electrical Audio and record it all live to tape together. The reason for that was they felt that they were struggling with getting the right energy and the right momentum, the right feeling, vibe from studio recordings, and they felt that their live shows always sounded better. So they figured, let's go in and track it live and see what we can get out of it. Now, the neat thing about this song is that it already has a vibe going into it, but we wanted to take it a little step further, which is why I introduced today the SSL 4KB. This new channel strip by SSL is incredible sounding. Back in 1969, Colin Sanders started Solid State Logic. By 75, 76, he built the first A-series console, and they were pretty much prototypes of what was to come. By the end of 76, they had the console made for the 4KB, which was the first commercial console by SSL. Townhouse had it in London. Now, this was a specific console at that time because it introduced a lot of new features. What we have over here is the 360 software, and it can kind of show you a little bit of what the actual channel strip looked like at the time. Including here is the 4KB channel strip over here. Now, the way I can run this is I can use the UC1 or I can use the 360. The 360 software is really neat because it acts as if it's a console on its own. And then the actual UF8 is my faders, which can clone to that if I need to. And the UC1 is basically the channel strip between channel strip 2 and the 4KB. Now, the 4KB, being historically one of the most famous consoles of all time, came out of the Townhouse in London. Now, if you don't know that studio, look it up. Elton John, Queen, Phil Collins, Peter Gabriel, Hugh Padgham did a ton of records. In fact, it was the studio that he found out about the gated reverb trick. They were working on a Peter Gabriel song, and they found out how to do that on this specific console. So it's very special. It's got a lot of history when it comes down to it. The reason I like it is because it has transformers on the front end. So it's very colored. It's Jensen transformers on the front end. And the EQs just sound very similar to the E series, but just a little more warm and a little more fuzzy. The reason I like it over the actual channel strip 2 is because unlike the channel strip 2, which I believe is based off of the 9000 console, it's a lot more clean, it's a lot more sharp, is that this adds a nice character to what I'm trying to get out of it. But, like you see in this session, I have channel strip 2 and the SSL 4KB going on depending on what I need. And that's the benefit of this guy, because they both run off the UC1. I don't want to get too deep into it because this isn't a product video. It's more about listening to what this track sounds like with the new setup. But to show you in the 360 universe, it gives you a lot of options to be able to choose what you want. The darker ones are the 4KBs. This side, the lighter ones, are the channel strip 2s, which are more of the 9000 era. And then I've got all my bus compressors. Now, these are obviously controlling each other, as you see. You can see I'm jumping around and then be in my own little world. Usually my monitor is over on the left side, and my UC1 is actually lower below here. But today we have it just to show you what we're trying to do. I'm going to start with just the drums and then talk about why I like the EQ. Electric Audio has an amazing sounding brick room that is very large sounding. Here we go. Here's a perfect example of using the 4KB and the Channel Strip 2 on the same source. On the room mic, I have Channel Strip 2. On the floor tom, I have Channel Strip 2. And on the rest of the set is the 4KB. This allows me to get all the color I need and then stay clean and punchy, but not too colored when I don't want that. As you see, the rooms and the floor tom have the originals. Now I use a couple samples on this drum set for specific reasons. One was I want a little more attack out of the kick, and then the other one was DJ, the drummer, actually either knocked the snare out, the mic either fell on the snare, or something happened where it really messed up the sound of the snare. It was really choke sounding, so I wanted a little more attack and a little more of the snare sounds on the drum. So I ended up augmenting some snare sample and kick sample in there to get it what I needed it to do. I want to hear what the low end is doing on the kick drum, just the low end of the 4KB. Sounds great. Very, very clean low end. Now with the whole set, nice hair. Down to the overheads. I'm curious just what to push the compression on it just a little bit. It's very responsive compared to a lot of the other SSL channel strip compressors. There are a few special things I'd like to add about this new channel strip on the 4KB. One is there is a mic pre input on this sucker. And there's a model of the Jensen JE115K transformer input. I believe that was what was on the 4KB. This is one of the cool things that allows you to pulverize certain things with the preamp circuit. And if we want to get crazy on the drums, we could pull in the pre-saturation and kind of start pushing the drums just a little bit. Just got a really nice character to it. Just another saturation option. I'm going to focus on the low end of the bass on the bus. I mean, that's a huge lift. I'm going in a little bit to the channel strip compressor. It does seem to glue it up nicely. The sustain of it just sounds killer. If I solo drums and bass together and I want to toggle between the two and check phase on, let's say, the bass amp and DI, this is a perfect area where I can use the UC1 and the UF8. This allows me to use two hands and listen to the music at the same time without actually constantly looking at the screen. And not to sound totally ridiculous, but sometimes it's good to not look at the screen. As much as I love it, and I like to see what's happening, to be able to take a moment and use my hands and close my eyes is great. Pulling that phase out of the actual amp on the bass clearly shows you when you need to know right away. But I've got a little mid-range on it. tiny bit of thunder. The other neat thing is it's stepped here. So if you look at the release, it's stepping versus it being fluid. Same as the ratios. It makes things really easy. It also makes things not have to overcomplicate. Steve and Jeremy were the guitar players. Steve is the singer of the band. And they both played live at the same time. In one room by themselves. Brad, the bass player, was in an ISO room on his own, live. And DJ was in the super live room. There was 2 mics on each cabinet, which I actually kept both because they did something together. It created a really cool sound. But instead of jumping again to the 4KBs, I'm actually using the channel strips. Now, channel strip 2 does sound clean, but it does still have some vibe to it. It's not necessarily as sterile as you would think a normal super clean EQ would be. There's still vibe, but it's not nearly as colored, which is what I liked because I think these songs were recorded with ribbon mics on the guitars, if I remember correctly. And just opening up the mics really did help it. And as you see, I have a little bit of boost at the top. I took out some of the high pass, which is a great sounding high pass filter. And then I have a little bit of the compression. The other thing I really love about the 360 is it gives you a lot of options in metering universe. So if I click this and drop this down, it gives me the option to actually put anything I need in line from each other. And then it shows the metering. It gives you the in and out, or you can collapse it and still see it on the top while still seeing these channels. It's funny, these actually look like the Back to the Future number system, the reading instrument. It also gives you the option to use the mix knob at the very top and seeing what you're actually doing versus just assuming. Very quick, very easy. Everything aligning is simple. If I wanted to start flopping around phase and stuff, going over to the phase on the UF8 and then being able to engage whatever phase we wanted, depending on the track. High frequency to take a little bit of the edge. The 4KB, little EQ. Atticus is not happy. So that's pegging on the top band. Sounds great. A little bit of the compression, a little bit of the gate, and a little bit of fur with the vintage drive again. Harden it up a bit. The X delay, which I really like, based off the TC delay. And then I wrap it up. I might put a little more compression on it. The reverbs I have on here are the flex verbs. This one looks like it's for my drum room. Down the line, I use a mid chamber, a hall, chamber large, a plate medium, which is almost a large plate, and then falling down the delays. The trick stuff going down the line is finding the right size reverb. For this track, I want it to be massive sounding, just absolutely insane sounding. And to be honest, the reverb that I chose for this guy is huge, 70% on. And the high frequency crossover and the mid multiplier, putting that in allows things to really expand and replicate. Now, just moving things around just a little bit here, it can shape the vocal reverb just incredibly. Very unique sound.
color the whiteness with your voice.
That is super awesome.
We care about
What do we got on the channel?
color the whiteness
A little bit of compression.
with your voice. Lover,
I'm tucking a tiny bit of the actual top band around 10.48. I've got the low pass and the high pass going. This is one of the cool things that allows you to pulverize certain things with the preamp circuit. What you do is you engage the preamp. So if it's on the lead vocal,
this isn't the way I thought my life would have turned out.
the harder you push it,
'Cause you're not the one that I thought I would care
it really starts sounding really neat.
about. Color.
Now, the other cool feature about this specific 4KB channel strip is it has a DS mode. Now, the DS ratio is, I think, 10:1, and it's filtered off the sidechain input signal, delivering, I believe, the broadband compression triggered by sibilants. The release variable is somewhere around 30 to 50 milliseconds, which is really fast. So you can also use that for other things as well, other than just vocal de-essing, acoustic guitar, ducking for squeaks and stuff like that. And one thing to add about the actual B-Series channel compressor, it's featuring a circuit topology that is based on the SSL bus compressor. The peak detection and the sidechain BCA and the feedback loop respond very similar. Final thought here, really dive in to understand how the UF8 and the UC1 work in tandem together. The UF8 allows you to do some macro stuff where you can do a lot of customizing. I have it set up where if I wanted to see certain things, I can see where I'm at and get located on the timeline, or I can use the stop playback mode. It just allows you to basically do any custom macro you need it to be inside Pro Tools and then worry about what you're doing here. By using both options, it allows you to shuttle around as fast as lightning. And it sounds great, which is the most important thing. Well, that's it. I'm Marc Daniel Nelson. Thanks for listening. Have fun, deep dive, and happy mixing.